If you're anything like me, you love to have things to look forward to. All of us have our daily routines and we make our way through them, some of them happily, some of them a bit begrudgingly. There are just parts of our day that we get through because we need to. And what helps me through some of those parts is to have events or activities that I can look forward to. And when it's something that I'm really excited about, I tend to count down. I count down towards a specific time or a specific date because it just shows me that time is passing and things are happening, but I'm getting closer and closer to that item or event. And a couple of them I want to share with you. One is I'm going to the Edinburgh Yarn Festival. In March 2018, I will be traveling to Edinburgh, Scotland to attend the Yarn Festival that takes place in the middle of that month. I'm beyond excited. I made the decision, as some of you may have heard on Instagram or through my travel mate Maria's podcast, I made the decision to attend this fiber festival, visit Scotland, tour around, and just have a generally great time meeting makers from all over the world by way of this event. And I'm thrilled. I'm very grateful and humbled and excited to be able to do something like that. So of course I had to start a countdown. So I hopefully will be able to put here the number of days until I attend the festival. I'm at about 152 days from the day that we travel. And Maria and I are flying over there from here in the US, and we're looking forward to the festival itself, of course, and about 3 or 4 days, full days worth of activities and social events and meetups. And then we've added a couple of days onto our trip so that we can tour some of Scotland. We're both very excited about that part of the trip as well, because I have never been to Scotland, and though Maria has, it's been some time for her. So there are going to be new adventures waiting for us. We're hoping to hike the hills and see some castles, eat some great food, and discover some new places. And then retire back to our Airbnb and squish all the new yarn that we will undoubtedly have purchased. Speaking of new yarn, I am currently on a cold sheep adventure. Some of you have known about the Stash and Burn podcast for a long, long time, are familiar with the concept of cold sheep. If you're not, it's a play on words that's meant to mimic going cold turkey, which means to quit something completely and stay away from that thing for a period of time. To go cold sheep means not bringing in new yarn to your stash. And I joined the cold sheep effort as part of the Stash and Burn podcast, whose group you can find on Ravelry, in order to just give myself a nice, healthy budget to buy some new yarns when I go to Edinburgh. So this effort was supported by my friend Kelly of the Celtic Cast On podcast. She and I decided to pick a date and only work from our stash until that date, which happens to be her birthday in February of next year. So now it is 138 days until I buy any new yarn, which means there is a small window between coming off the cold sheep and heading out to Edinburgh. But I'm going to try to be good and continue to work from stash right up until the festival. In the meantime, I've had a really fun adventure diving back into my stash. Even though so many dyers and makers are coming out with gorgeous things, I'm trying to resist. And some of my recent purchases have been non-yarny purchases that are meant to help me knit from my stash. This first one is a book called By Hand Making Communities. And I bought lookbook number 4, which is focused on the Puget Sound area. And that's out in the Northwest United States. This book is full of gorgeous photos, really informational articles. I go to Seattle, which you can see here. I travel there quite often for work, and I'm really excited to explore the surrounding areas that are featured in this book so that on my next trip, maybe I can make a little detour. I specifically purchased this book because of a pattern inside that I intend to knit, and it's going to be my EYF, my Edinburgh Yarn Festival sweater. The sweater is called Fern and Feather. It's a long sleeve pullover designed by Jennifer Steingass. I'm so excited that this book is finally here. I went online on Ravelry to look at the pattern page and thought, well, I guess I could wait until the pattern is individually released. But then I started to look at some of the other patterns in the book and read a little bit about the area that's being featured, and I was completely sucked in. I knew I had to have the whole book. There are just some interesting places that they talk about. This is Pike Place Market in Seattle. I visited Pike Place Market, and it is an amazing adventure. Fruits, seafood, yarn shops featuring some of the most gorgeous, delicious things. So now I'm just deciding I'm going to use this book as kind of a tourist guide for my next visit out west. And in the meantime, I'll be working on my Fern and Feather sweater. I do have yarns picked out for that. I'll try to insert a picture of those yarns. I'm knitting from stash, but I didn't have a hard time finding yarns to use for it. The sweater actually calls for a worsted weight yarn, I believe. I'm going to look and just make sure. I don't want to give you guys bad information. So it's a top-down Icelandic-inspired stranded yoke sweater. And the yarn called for is the brand Yarn on the House. And I believe it is a worsted weight, but I'll make sure to put information on the screen or down below. Either way, I'm using 2 DK yarns from my stash. One from Wing and a Prayer Farm, hi Tammy, in Vermont, and another from Fern Fiber, which is a yarn shop that was owned by Maria of Ninja Chickens. So I'm using a darker body color, just as shown in the example, and a much lighter color for the yoke. I'll be working with Rommeldale and Shetland, which is very exciting. And I really love the style of this sweater. It's very casual. And some of you are wondering, how on earth are you going to wear a long sleeve wool sweater in Florida? Well, we have a few cool days here, but I really expect to wear this sweater when I'm in Scotland next year, and on any of my trips to the Northeast US, or even to the Pacific Northwest, where it gets much cooler at this time of year. So I'm very much looking forward to that. I highly recommend the By Hand serial, which is a series of lookbooks that include patterns and articles. I think it's the way things are going now. We had magazines like Interweave and Vogue Knitting at one time. I think they had a really big presence. And now this style of lookbook with recipes and patterns and articles seems to be a lot more common these days. I'm enjoying it because I feel that it's something I can flip through a lot. Speaking of that, my mailman, actually it's my mailwoman, who's awesome. She also delivered this just today. Now, according to a podcaster that I really enjoy, whose name is Hannah, who lives in Kuopio, she is in Finland, and Maria told me that Hannah says this is pronounced Laine. Hannah, am I saying that right? I hope so. I've been saying Lane magazine. It's Laine, which I think sounds cool. This is issue number 3 of the magazine, and it features some amazing yarns, and the yarns are featured in depth. You read a lot about how they're made, where they're made, and their origin. It also has recipes, another theme that seems to be common amongst the new style and new format of magazines. And then, of course, it has patterns included. One of the patterns that really caught my eye was the bracket hat. So here's a picture of that. So the bracket hat caught my eye because I love cables. I feel that a squishy wool cable just really puts a lovely touch on a hat. This pattern is by Whitney Hayward and is one that I'm very much interested in knitting. Hats make great portable projects. I travel for work, and hats and socks are really easy for me to tuck into my purse or into my carry-on and knit on a little bit during each flight or when I finished with a meeting. So that one already caught my eye. The pictures in this magazine are beautiful. I think that the flipping through that I do for the most part is looking at the pictures. Eventually I know that I will get to the point of reading some of these articles because I'm interested in the topic, and a lot of the yarns are new to me. I had not seen them or used them before. What's your favorite book that you're reading lately, or magazine? Share with me. I would love to hear that. So, admittedly, there was one primary thing that I wanted to see in a Laine magazine. This feature is an eco-printed sock blank by Maria. It's described as a naturally dyed, eco-printed, single-stranded sock blank with sparkle. And that's something that is available on the Ninja Chicken's Etsy site. And it's something that I've actually used in my knitting, in the top I have on, as a matter of fact, which you can learn about by visiting my Ravelry page or checking out a couple episodes ago. But I'm so proud of my friend for being featured on the favorites page in this magazine, which has, I think, quite a significant following, because I think she's doing something that's very different, very new and fresh. So very proud to see that. But flipping through, I found several patterns in here that I find knit-worthy. I think the magazine is of high quality, and I highly recommend it. This is issue 3. Who knows, I may go back and check out the patterns and articles in previous issues and see if I'd like to get them. The only reason I was able to get my hands on this is because it's carried by 4 Pearls Yarn Shop, which is located in Winter Haven, Florida. A huge thank you to JD, an employee at 4 Pearls, who answered my desperate phone call when I said, there are only 2 shops in Florida that are stocking this magazine, and I need one. And he very kindly took my information and sent it to me. It got here in no time. So if you're near or in Winter Haven, Florida, check out this great yarn shop, 4 Pearls. Very grateful to be able to get the magazine without having to have it shipped from very far away. Go green.